Hi there, Doc from Barcast Audio here today to talk with you about the levels of MBE questions, the levels of bar exam questions, how it is important to understand these levels before the exam, and what you can do before the exam to make sure that you are locked in, that you are not wasting your time on thinking too hard about the MBE questions and ultimately tanking your scores. Let's jump right into the levels of MBE questions, the levels of questions on the bar exam. All right, so this is something I don't think is really talked about enough with the bar exam courses, the out-of-the-box bar exam courses, or in general with regard to bar prep. All bar exam MBE multiple choice questions are essentially falling into one of three boxes, one of three levels that we'll call them for the purposes of this sort of lecture, short video. And those levels are level one. Level one questions are relatively straightforward, a lot of times shorter hypos. Think evidence questions that are really straightforward, contracts questions that are really straightforward. Those are going to make up about 25% of your questions on the bar exam. They are level one, straightforward, not tricky, not trying to really go crazy with the tricky fake answers, with the fake out distractor answers. Something you're going to look at and pretty quickly get it. Now, the next level of questions is these level two questions. The level two questions make up about 50 to 60% of the questions in the bar exam. They are going to be somewhere in the middle. They are middle tier in terms of trickiness. They're going to have maybe a distractor answer, but ultimately you should be able to move through these relatively quickly. Now, the final level of questions on the MBE is going to be the level three questions. These are the hardest of the hard questions. They are the super tricky questions, the ones that are attempting to create this kind of curve on the bar exam, attempting to trick students. They have a number of trick answers, distractor answers, and they're going to make up about 25% of the questions themselves on the bar exam. Now, the problem, or I guess the benefit of understanding that there are three levels to questions on the MBE is that you will understand that most of the questions you're going to be asked on the MBE are middle of the road questions. They're not trying to be overly tricky. The problem when you're going through a lot of these bar prep courses, a lot of the like Barberries, Themis, they're questions that they're giving you throughout that process, students often sort of report that they feel like they're being tricked a lot of the time. Like these questions fall into that level three zone where the answer is really, really tricky, especially early on when they're trying to sort of emphasize to you that you need to get a better understanding of the law. And students can get discouraged by this. So then they sort of start to seek real questions that have been discarded by the NCBE. So they'll get Adapt-A-Bar or something like that where they're getting real questions and they'll start to say, hey, these are a little bit different than the questions I've been getting from my bar course. And the reason for that is that most of the questions that you're getting asked on Adapt-A-Bar, on any of those services that give you real MBE questions, those are going to be level 2 to level 1 questions because that's what makes up the majority of the exam. It's going to be 75% around that is going to be these level 1 and level 2 questions. But the bar prep courses are giving you a lot of these level 3 questions throughout your process to really make sure to emphasize to you, you don't really know the law as well as maybe you should. So too often, as we get closer to exam day, as we get closer to the bar exam itself, students are left still second-guessing themselves, still looking for trick answers because they've spent too much time on the bar prep course questions, too much time thinking that the exam is going to be primarily these level 3 questions. Keep in mind that most of the questions, up to 75%, are going to be level 1 and level 2 questions on the bar exam. That means that they're going to be relatively straightforward, or at the very least, they're not going to be overly tricky. Don't get caught up in the idea that the answer choices are trying to trick you. There's going to be 2 trick answer choices. It's not going to be like that on the bar exam. Do not spend too much of your time stressing these level 3 questions. Keep that in mind that 75% again are going to be these level 1 to level 2 questions on the MBE. And as long as you understand that, as long as you understand that the answer choices are not attempting to go overly tricky with you on 75% of those questions, you are going to start scoring better as you approach exam day. You're going to start to see your answers come together, and you're going to stop overthinking answers. You're going to stop spending too much time struggling against your time constraints come exam day. Don't go crazy with the level 3 questions. They're not going to make up the majority of your questions. It's just going to be about 25%. So keep that in mind as we get closer to exam day. Be sure to check us out at barcastaudio.com if you want all sorts of MBE materials, audio outlines, audio flashcards, help you memorize the law as we get closer to exam day. On top of that, we have our MBE programs where you can get real MBE questions. Our full bar prep programs are available now. We will walk you through all sorts of tutoring sessions we have available. Everything you need for the bar exam is available at barcastaudio.com. Check us out over there. Until then, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye now.